The Russell 2000 having its best days since December, gaining more than 3%. Pharma names and some smaller tech stocks boosting that index. And joining us now is VanEck Associates CEO. VanEck offers a small mid-cap ETF, SMOT, one of its 70 U.S.-based funds. Jan, welcome. Could this be the green light today for small caps, finally?
Ultimately, I think so. It's hard to know with a one-day move. So when you have such a violent move like you had today with semiconductors falling and basically the rest of the market except for the Mag 7 doing well, you have to say, is that just a one-day reversal or have we finally hit a trend? I'd like to scale back and say, what's the big force that's been in the U.S. markets and the U.S. economy? It's been government spending. And that's why we didn't have a recession this year. If you look back at all the surprises, why interest rates haven't fallen yet, it explains almost everything. But we have this huge government spending at very low unemployment rates. So my thinking is the Fed is in a box. They have to be stimulative. And then we have a big fiscal question next year. Do the Trump taxes go, do they roll off? Do taxes go up? It really depends who's elected there. I think the pressure is on the Fed to ease in face of all that, which is good for small caps.
Oftentimes lately, it seemed that risk assets have moved together, sometimes regardless of size, and Bitcoin has acted like a risk asset. Bitcoin was weird today, though. It spiked up and then went down. What do you think is moving Bitcoin most these days, especially as we look at inflation and expectations around yields?
Right. Big picture, I'm very bullish on, it started a year ago, Bitcoin and gold. Why? Because you had the sort of fundamentals of Bitcoin, you had the halvening and all the interest stuff there. But then you had the Fed easing, just like we were talking about. Same trend. It's like fuel for Bitcoin and gold investors, right? The Fed easing. So it's super bullish. Why did Bitcoin's got some selling from the German government. There's the Mt. Gox selling, there's short-term stuff. But we've seen only a 20% correction, John, in the Bitcoin price. And that's kind of normal in a bull market. So at VanEck, we like to say we're hodling, which is holding on for dear life. So we're long-term investors. And all the ETFs pretty much have seen inflows, including last month when the price was down 10%. So it's a drip from retail investors.
And we've been talking quite a bit about how what you're seeing in Bitcoin tends to be a leading indicator for the levels of liquidity in the market more broadly. But I do want to go back to gold because we're trading at record highs. We do have this geopolitical tension backdrop as well, in addition to the fact that it is an election year. This reserve weaponization, I've heard it called, with more central banks starting to buy gold rather than bonds or treasuries. Where does it go from here, and why are you so bullish?
Yeah, I mean, if we're just at the beginning of this trend, that's why we're bullish on gold, because you haven't seen any inflows into the ETFs in the United States, neither gold bullion nor gold shares. It's been foreign bank buying, like you're saying, central bank buying. What else are you going to buy, right? If you don't want the dollar, you got a Swiss franc, maybe. The euro, the yen is out, right, because of all the the weakness in that currency. So Bitcoin is your alternative. So I think next year, I call it the 2025 fiscal reckoning. You got Social Security bankruptcy looming. In the U.S., that's when we solve problems, the year after a presidential election. So it really matters, how we're going to solve these problems next year. And I think that's all Fed easing, all good for gold and Bitcoin.